Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're trying to shortcut your journey into maybe the biggest question of them all.
It's a big one.
Yeah, we're not just talking about what exists, but the actual nature of what exists. We're sort of grappling with that gap,
Yeah.
between the stuff we can touch and measure.
And the consciousness that's doing the touching and measuring.
Exactly.
That's right. And for this deep dive, we're leaning on a really rich philosophical journal article. It gives us a great framework, really. It defines metaphysics as this crucial link between what it calls intelligible questions,
The deep whys.
the whys, exactly, and the explicable world of intentionality, which is just a way of saying, the content and meaning inside the conscious mind. Our whole mission here is to distill how these two worlds, the physical and the mental, are maybe two sides of the same coin.
Okay, so let's unpack that core distinction right away because it sounds like it defines this entire conversation.
Yeah.
We've got the reductive versus the non-reductive.
Precisely. On one hand, you have the world that physics deals with, the reductive world. This is the empirical given. Think of the 118 known elements, the atoms, the fields.
Everything you can break down and quantify.
Right. And then on the other side, you have the world of metaphysics,
The non-reductive.
which deals with the non-reductive world. This is what philosophers might call the phenomenological or existential given.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just the way the mind interprets and describes all that reductive physical data. We need it because the mind it keeps asking questions that a simple list of atoms and forces can't answer.
And these are not new questions, are they? I mean, the analysis points to two really famous ones that kind of force this relationship between physics and metaphysics. The first one is, of course, Leibniz's question.
Why is there something instead of nothing?
The classic.
And then you have Quine's, which is just as fundamental on what there is, what actually exists. What's really important for our deep dive is to see that these questions aren't just like historical artifacts.
Right.
They're relevant because the simple act of asking them, the fact that we as conscious beings can even form these questions, that in itself establishes the truth of metaphysical claims. If we couldn't think abstractly, we wouldn't need metaphysics at all.
So let's jump into the 6 big distinctions that the source lays out. This is the backbone of the discussion, starting with maybe the most familiar one and the most baffling, the matter-mind distinction. On the matter side, the reductive side physics has given us this incredible detail.
It really has. I mean, we know the periodic table. We know the bits and pieces of the atom, down to electrons, up quarks, and down quarks, which we now think are better described as fields. But still, it's this magnificent, measurable system.
Governed by the 4 fundamental forces.
The gravitational, electromagnetic, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. It is, by all definitions, an insentient reality. It doesn't feel or think.
And that very insentience brings us right up against the non-reductive mind. If the brain is just a complex arrangement of that matter, how on earth do we explain consciousness?
Well, we understand consciousness as a brain process. That's the reductive part. We can see the neural activity on a scan.
Sure.
But the content of consciousness, your feeling of being you, your creativity, your intentions, that's fundamentally non-reductive.
Yeah.
When we say intentionality, we mean the mind is about something. It has direction. It has meaning. You can't put meaning on a scale.
This leads right into that famous analogy the analysis brings up. Is the brain the producer of consciousness, or is it more like a receptor? I find this so interesting, but doesn't the receptor idea, like a radio, kind of ignore all of evolutionary biology?
That's the challenge, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it. If you say the brain produces consciousness, you're saying the radio is making the music.
Right.
But if it's a receptor, then evolution explains how we develop this incredibly complex radio, the antenna, the circuitry, but it doesn't explain the music itself, the signal. Intentionality could be the signal that's common to all of us. Subjectivity is just the unique dial setting on our personal radio.
This is where it gets really compelling for me. This mind-body gap, it generates this list of baffling questions that materialism, the idea that everything is just matter, it just can't seem to resolve.
Exactly. And that's what proves the need for metaphysics. The source lists a few, and they're just profound. How does determinate matter, atoms with fixed properties, create an indeterminate mind that feels like it has free will?
Or how do insentient, unthinking atoms generate sentient intentionality, subjectivity, and creativity? I mean, where does the feeling part come from?
Now think about that.
Okay, let's move to the second distinction. Essence versus existence. The reductive side here is pretty straightforward. It's the is of existence. This thing is here.
Right. This chair exists, but the non-reductive side is its essence. What is the nature of what exists? What is this chair for? What makes it a chair? And the philosophical history on this is fascinating. You have Plato, who argued that the essence, the idea of chairness, comes before any actual chair. It exists in this world of ideal forms.
And then you get someone like Sartre, the existentialist, who just completely flips that. He says existence precedes essence. At least for us humans, we're born, we exist, and then we create our own meaning, our essence.
And the key takeaway for you, the learner, is this human distinction. Your physical eye registers the is of existence. You see the object.
You see the chair.
But you need your rational, your metaphysical eye to establish the is of the essence. You need a mind to categorize it, to define it, and to give that physical reality some meaning.
Which flows perfectly into the third distinction, concrete versus abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Concrete things are easy. A tree, a car, you can touch them.
But abstract objects are concepts. Justice, beauty, or mathematics.
And this is where we get one of the most powerful claims in our source material.
That mathematics is metaphysics at its best.
That is a huge statement, because most people think of math as either something we just invented or, I don't know, some eternal truth that's floating out there somewhere. How do they justify calling it metaphysics at its best?
Because the argument is that abstract realities, like math, don't exist in some separate Platonic heaven. They begin at the exact same moment as matter.
So mind and matter are inseparable.
Exactly. The physical world contains shapes, sizes, quantities. Our senses act as transducers. They take in that physical data, and the mind processes it into mathematics.
So it's an interpretation. It's not an invention, and it's not a discovery of some other world.
Precisely. The source likens it to a secondary quality, like color or sound. The physical world has light wavelengths, but your mind is what interprets a certain wavelength as the color blue. In the same way, the physical world has quantifiable shapes and sizes, and your mind interprets those transductions as numbers and sets. The number 4 isn't located anywhere in space, but it exists in the mind, because the mind is there to process the quantities it finds in matter.
Yeah.
That process, that's metaphysics.
Okay, let's get through the fourth and fifth distinctions. We'll start with space and time. So a specific place, this room, or a specific duration, say the next hour, those are reductive.
They're measurable, but the concepts of space and time themselves are non-reductive. And the crucial takeaway is their inseparable beginning. Time and space didn't exist before matter.
And they didn't come after.
They began together with the beginning of matter. Because for matter to exist, to be actualized, it requires space to be in and time for that to happen. They aren't containers that matter was poured into. They're properties that came bundled with existence.
Which, of course, is what Einstein formalized with his whole space-time idea and the effect of gravity.
Right. Gravity, the laws of physics, space, time. They all popped into existence at the same moment.
And we can even see this connection. With gravitational time dilation, time literally runs faster the further you get from Earth.
It does. The non-reductive concept is physically bound to the reductive world.
Okay, now for the fifth one. Particular versus universal. This is about shared properties. If I see a dozen red shirts, am I just seeing 12 separate instances of the color red, or am I understanding the universal property of redness?
The red shirt itself, the particular object, is reductive. It's a physical thing. But the universal redness is non-reductive. It's an abstract property. And universals have this really bizarre quality because they don't have a physical form.
Which is?
A concrete object, a shirt, can't be in two places at once. But a universal like redness can be.
Because it's just a property.
It's just a property. It's a non-reductive description of a physical state. So it isn't bound by the same spatial laws that govern the matter it describes. Redness is everywhere a red thing is, but it's nowhere in particular. And that's a profound difference between the world of things and the world of properties.
And finally, we get to the sixth distinction, which really ties back to those opening questions. Contingent versus necessary.
These terms really define existence itself.
So contingent means it has a beginning, it depends on other things, and it could have been different.
And necessary means it has no beginning, it's non-contingent, it's true in all possible worlds. It couldn't be any other way. This distinction really marks the final boundary of what we can know.
And the analysis breaks necessity down into 3 types, which I found really helpful.
It is helpful. First, you have logical necessity. This is where the negation of a statement is a contradiction. A triangle cannot have 4 sides. 2 plus 2 must equal 4. Then you have physical or gnomic necessity. This is stuff that's explained by the laws of physics. The fact that water is H2O, the fact that gravity works the way it does. These are necessary facts, but they're explained by the rules of our specific universe.
And then there's the third type, the one that sort of stops you in your tracks. Factual or existential necessity?
This is it.
Yeah.
Factual necessity is about the inexplicable brute facts. It brings us right back to Leibniz. Why does anything exist at all? Why these particular laws? Why these physical constants? The laws of physics explain what is.
But not that it is.
Exactly. They don't explain the necessity of their own existence. And the core philosophical conclusion here is that while the physical necessity, what we can measure, is knowable, the factual necessity, the sheer brute fact of it all, is and may always be inexplicable. It's the final limit of reductive knowledge.
So after going through these 6 major distinctions, what's the big takeaway for you, the learner? It feels like we've proven that the mind is just absolutely essential to even make sense of reality.
Absolutely. Metaphysics is the mind's non-reductive understanding of a reductive reality. It's driven by these fundamental questions, reality and the nature of reality. They're the same thing. But the mind has to make a distinction. It has to categorize one as the empirical stuff physics and the other as the phenomenological stuff metaphysics.
But if matter and mind are inseparable, how do we square that? Do we have to believe in 2 totally different substances?
Not necessarily. The idea of property dualism is really useful here. It says there's one substance, matter, but it has 2 types of phenomena, physical and mental.
So they're just 2 aspects of the same thing.
Exactly. It means that intentionality and subjectivity aren't just some weird accidental quirks of biology getting complex. They are an essential property of matter itself. And if that's true, then metaphysics becomes the study of matter's own inherent capacity for awareness.
Wow, that brings us full circle to one last really mind-bending thought for you to take away and mull over. Given that the atoms in your body and your brain are literally as old as the universe itself, how do these ancient insentient atoms somehow become aware of the very nature of reality? If matter is all there is, why is it asking existential questions about itself? Think about that until the next time we dive deep.